The Vanishing Campground by Lumi Quinn. The first time Greg met her, he couldn't quite put his finger on what felt off. She was strikingly beautiful in a way that bordered on unnatural. Her sharp cheekbones, wide dark eyes, and flawless porcelain skin could have graced the cover of any magazine, yet something in her gaze made him shiver, as though she were staring past him rather than at him. "Greg, meet Claire," his best friend Tom had said, a proud grin splitting his face. They'd run into her by chance at a supply market near the base of the mountain where Tom and Greg planned to camp. Claire had claimed to be a lone hiker heading in the same direction. "Nice to meet you," Greg had said, forcing a polite smile. Claire returned it, her lips parting ever so slightly to reveal perfect teeth. "Likewise." Her voice was soft, almost too soft, like she was holding back from speaking louder. As they spoke, she explained that she had no phone and wasn't confident navigating the trails alone. Tom, ever the romantic, immediately suggested she join them. Claire hesitated at first, but finally agreed. Greg, however, had a nagging feeling about her. The way she dodged questions about her past or her reason for hiking alone didn't sit right. Still, he said nothing. Greg's chance to back out came when he fell ill that evening, thanks to a bad hot dog he'd eaten on the way to the market. He spent the night miserably sick, barely able to move. "I'll stay behind and meet you back here tomorrow," he groaned to Tom, who looked torn but agreed. They planned for Tom and Claire to hike to the campsite as Greg rested at a nearby motel. "Be careful out there," Greg warned as they parted ways. Tom simply laughed, eager for an adventure and hoping to impress the mysterious girl. The following day, Greg was feeling better, but Tom didn't return. At first, he assumed his friend had decided to extend the trip. Tom often liked to unplug for a while, but as the hours dragged on, unease gnawed at him. Repeated calls to Tom's phone went unanswered, and by nightfall, his worry turned to dread. 2 days later, Greg decided to follow their planned trail. He joined a group of campers heading in the same direction, reasoning it was safer than going alone. When they reached the area where Tom and Claire had planned to camp, Greg found Tom's car parked at the trailhead, but no sign of them. Following the path, he soon stumbled upon their tent. What he found chilled him to the core. Inside were Tom's belongings, his wallet, phone, and neatly packed clothes. Claire's items, a small makeup bag, a folded sweater, and a pair of hiking boots were there as well. But there was no sign of either of them. The bloodstains told a different story. Dark splotches marred the inside of the tent and the surrounding area. The patterns suggested a struggle, but there was no trail leading away from the site. No drag marks, no shoe prints, no evidence of a second vehicle entering the area. Just the faint traces of animal tracks, though even those were distorted by the recent rain. "It's human," one of the investigators confirmed grimly, pointing at the blood. "And it's Tom's." And Claire became the prime suspect, but nothing about her added up. Her fingerprints weren't found anywhere at the scene. None of the personal items she'd left behind carried even a trace of DNA. The boots could have belonged to anyone. The makeup bag contained only pristine, unused products. Even the CCTV footage that confirmed her existence offered no leads. Every database they searched failed to identify her. It was as if Claire had stepped out of thin air. Hikers passing through the area later claimed they'd given a ride to a scared girl, matching her description, who said she'd been robbed and had no identification. But no further leads emerged. Weeks passed with no new developments, and Greg's frustration grew. He couldn't let go of the feeling that Claire knew more than she'd let on. Determined to find answers, he began scouring online forums and social media groups, looking for anyone who might have encountered someone like her. His obsession eventually led him to an auction in a nearby city, where he hoped to find parts for his car, a hobby he used to distract himself from the grief and confusion. That's when he saw her. Claire was there, looking different but unmistakable. Her hair was now a deep auburn, her posture more confident, but it was her. Greg watched as she laughed with a man she'd just met, leaning in close to him as though they were old friends. She introduced herself with a different name, spinning a story about her life that Greg knew was a lie. He didn't approach her, He couldn't risk scaring her off. Instead, he followed them at a distance, trailing them to a diner where they shared a meal. From his seat behind a thick column, Greg watched their interaction carefully. The man seemed smitten, and Claire played her part perfectly. When they left, Greg continued his pursuit, staying far enough back to avoid detection. They drove to a secluded area, and Greg parked his car out of sight. What he saw next shattered any illusions he'd clung to about Claire. From a distance, he watched her transform. Her limbs twisted and elongated, her skin darkened into scales, and massive wings unfurled from her back. She attacked the man with terrifying speed, her teeth ripping into him with feral precision. When it was over, she dumped the man's car into a ravine and vanished into the trees, moving like a shadowy predator. Greg returned home in shock, replaying the scene in his mind. He now knew Claire wasn't human, but he needed to know more. He dug deeper into his research and came across a Facebook group where someone had posted years earlier about witnessing a similar transformation. Greg reached out to the poster, a man named Derek, who agreed to meet. Derek shared his story, confirming Greg's worst fears. Together, they hatched a plan to trap Claire and uncover the truth about her origins. Using Derek as bait, they would lure her into an isolated area, armed with the knowledge of her abilities and the determination to end the nightmare she'd brought into their lives. Derek pretended to pass by Claire when she was out hunting, carefully orchestrating the meeting to appear like a chance encounter. He let her bump into him and allowed her to perform her usual tricks of charm. After a while, he offered to grab coffee and talk more. Claire, playing along, agreed. As soon as she stepped into Derek's car, Greg emerged from hiding and injected her with a tranquilizer. They transported her unconscious body to an empty container, securing her inside with only an opening on top. Over the next few days, Claire revealed shocking truths about her species under duress. She claimed her kind ruled the world from the shadows, letting humans believe they were free so they could experience the thrill of hunting them. Her taunts chilled Greg, but he continued interrogating her for any useful information. They took turns guarding the container, but Derek's resolve began to waver. He became infatuated with Claire, believing her promises that they could be together. One evening, as Greg arrived to relieve him, Derek turned on him, attempting to push him into the container to satisfy Claire's hunger. In the struggle, Derek accidentally fell into the container with her. Claire devoured him with terrifying efficiency, her hunger overriding any semblance of humanity. Greg, horrified but resolute, used the moment to his advantage. He tranquilized her once more and secured her with heavy chains. Realizing the extent of her deception and danger, Greg began torturing her for more information. From her, he learned how to recognize others of her kind. Subtle physical traits, behavioral patterns, and a sensitivity to certain metals. He also discovered their vulnerability to a rare herb that could weaken them long enough to deliver a fatal blow. With this knowledge, Greg doused the container in gasoline and set it ablaze, leaving Claire to perish in the inferno. As he walked away from the flames, a grim sense of purpose settled over him. He had become an outcast, dedicating his life to hunting these creatures, armed with the secrets he had pried from Claire's unwilling lips.